No better time than right now to talk about the NBA. Folks, NBA season is here. Unbelievable, but we've made it. We've made it. It is another NBA season getting started this evening, 24-25. Sixers play tomorrow. We'll talk about the futures. We'll talk about the latest with Joel Embiid and, of course, Paul George. But Sean Barnard, another season in front of us. Sean Barnard, new things for him. He's representing the squad over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Make sure you read him over at DK Network, doing a lot of work on, I see NFL, I saw Monday night plays, of course, hoops. He knows it better than most. And we're going to be rocking out in the Gambler with another season of picks and rolls. So, Sean, congratulations. Nice work in the off season. And I know you're going to be busier than ever this year for the upcoming NBA season.
Yeah, absolutely. And thrilled to do so. I'll be having some basketball betting content coming out every Monday, Wednesday, Friday for some kind of prop bet action, as well as some weekend work that will be coming out as well. So excited to dive fully into it. And in typical NBA fashion, we have not been short on storylines throughout the offseason, but I am excited to be actually talking about the on-court product moving forward. So thrilled that hoop season has finally arrived.
All right, we will get started with Sixers, though. All right, let's put the Knicks and Celtics to the side, T. Wilson Lakers to the side just for a second. Two good games tonight, but we got the Bucks and Sixers tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m., -2.5 for the 76ers. Now, I know that Keith Pompey puts a tweet out late at last night. I saw video. So this is where we're at. We've been through this song and dance as a Sixers fan before. It seems like Joel Embiid is – I need you to fill in the blanks here. It seems like Joel Embiid is still dealing with some carryover. All right. Paul George, we know what happened with his hyperextended knee in that preseason game. And then I see a video of the boys working out yesterday on the floor, working together, down low, like full throttle practice between those two. So my eyes tell me, okay, dude, relax. It's the normal Sixers nonsense. It's the beginning of the season. It's a long way to go. But what are your expectations tomorrow night for the starting lineup? And I guess, did that make you feel a little bit better like it did for me seeing that video of Paul George and Joel Embiid working out together yesterday?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I view Paul George and Joel Embiid through two very different lenses for this. For Joel specifically here, for all reports and everything, there has not been like a new injury that he's dealing with. There's not something new that has popped up that has put his status in doubt, more so than just kind of the knee management that we know is the situation. The unfortunate reality is there are some basically degenerative knee issues that Joel's dealing with. That is, this was more of a management situation than something that you're hoping to fix moving forward. So what this looks like to me, what my expectation is what Nick Nurse is calling the new normal for Joel Embiid. That this is just a part of their mindset, their goal, that they are going to limit the 5-on-5 action, the wear and tear on practice, that they're just not going to put as much on his plate. That's kind of my full outlook there. I think he's fully healthy, or at least what the version of a fully healthy Joel Embiid we're going to see. I don't know if what in their jar of hearts, how many games they have set for how many he's going to play this year. I personally lean towards that he does play tomorrow and that we see Joel Embiid in the debut game. I don't think that there's anything holding it back from that. And I think this is more just kind of taking care of him and giving him the best chance to be fully healthy here. Now, granted, the Keith Pompey tweet did not make me feel overly confident in that. I do think that there's plenty of people who are more skeptical about it. And I understand that outlook as well, because we haven't truly seen it. That we didn't see him in preseason at all. We haven't seen him run like live game action outside of 3-on-3. So I get the concern there, but I kind of view this as more just part of the plan right now. But ultimately, I think tomorrow will tell a lot about what that specific plan is. For Paul George specifically, a little more negative on his outlook for the debut. They're not going to rush this guy back. The goal for this team as a whole is to be as healthy as possible come playoff time. That does not mean forcing the guys into opening night if they're not quite there. I think we should rest easy knowing that we dodged a little bit of a bullet for what that knee issue is, because it could have been far worse based on what it looked like. But I'm not really expecting to see Paul George in the debut, and I don't think there's anything overly wrong with that.
It's tough, right? Like, I think for us Sixers fans, it's really impossible at this point in time to just separate the years and say, this is new, this is fresh. Like, I'm not asking you to believe, but to realize that missing a season opener in the grand scheme of things is not that big of a deal, right? It's 82 games. We're talking about one. Does it suck? Of course, it's not good. Especially if I had tickets going down to the game, I'd be miserable. But at the end of the day, deep bench, good players throughout. They'll fill in nicely as far as the starting five is concerned. So with that being said, I want to get your take on that tomorrow night. And just for the people that have no idea what Keith Pompey tweeted last night, midnight hour, Pompey creeping. No, it was 9 o'clock actually. It may not be ideal for the Sixers long term for Joel Embiid left knee rest and Paul George left knee bone bruise to compete in Wednesday's season opener against the Bucks. Still in the midst of his ramp up process, Embiid may need multiple 5-on-5 scrimmages to build up conditioning, test out the knee, and gain on-court chemistry. Whatever. Meanwhile, the Sixers game against the Indiana Pacers on Sunday would be more ideal return date for George if he and the Sixers want to be cautious. I don't think Keith Pompey's putting that out there at 9 o'clock at night just because he had a little bit of a hunch. I'm sure that there's some conversations being placed that he's privy to. So I think we should put some stock into that. Curious though, like Joel Embiid 5-on-5, like I don't know. Your thoughts on the starting five tomorrow though? Where are we at?
Yeah, I think I'm still going to lean towards Joel playing for now. Obviously, the quick swap there, if that is not the case, is Andre Drummond steps in the starting lineup, and that's the real benefit of having him on this roster is that that is the best backup center that we've seen from Joel throughout his career, and a guy that can step in and is pretty much an every night starter on a lot of teams around the NBA. But for the sake of this, I do think Joel starts and obviously locks things down at center. Tyrese Maxey is going to be on the floor. Kelly Oubre is going to be in the starting lineup. Paul George is the question mark there. I don't ultimately expect that to be the case. Eric Gordon's a guy that I do think steps into the starting lineup. I think one of my hotter takes for the season is I think we probably see Gordon start 40-plus games this year when we talk about all kind of the lineup management, juggling things. So I do expect that to be the case there. And then Caleb Martin, they've seen more open to bring him off the bench than I fully expected to be the case. But I think without Paul George, that he will be a guy that steps into that starting lineup there. There is a world where we're talking about a potential like 6-man of the year campaign for Caleb Martin. If that's how they choose to use him, I would prefer him to just start and kind of expect that to be the case tomorrow without George. So that's probably the lineup that I expect, but we will see how Nick Nurse decides to do things there.
68 games played shouldn't come as a surprise with all the injuries the Suns dealt with last year for Eric Gordon. Only started 24 of them, but still 68 games. Like Eric Gordon is not exactly the youngest guy on the team. How old
35.
is Eric Gordon? 35.
Yeah.
Hey, look, man, it takes an army to get through a season. So here we are. And then we might be short a rookie if he continues the vlog on the team bus. Last thoughts on that. Was Kyle Lowry messing with them? A little bit of rookie, hazing, or what's going on, man? Like, you got to respect the privacy of some players here, and you might be shooting your video here. It's a new day. I get it. We talked about this when it comes to social media.
Yeah.
But man, that felt a little like, Jared, you're not understanding. Shut it down. Like, that was my take on it.
Yeah, I did watch the full vlog from Jared, which I do think are kind of cool, the behind the scenes that he is pulling into this. It's a little bit like the Matisse Thybulle, what he used to do when he was here, but McCain's a little more, I guess, forward-facing as a personality than Matisse was. Matisse kind of more about the video production side of things there. I think it's very cool how throughout the video he referenced like hanging with Kyle Lowry, and that's a guy that like he was asking for advice on different things. He's had to bring a speaker to the plane. McCain did as kind of a rookie duty thing. So he's calling Lowry and asking which one, that type. So I think that's a cool relationship that's being built. I think it's a little of both. That Lowry's messing with him and Lowry like doesn't get it from a standpoint of Kyle Lowry very much cut from a cloth, even beyond us as far as not getting like the social media, the young people, and the way that things are done nowadays. So I think there was some truth to it, but I don't think there was any hostility. And I do think it's very cool that Lowry and McCain are two that are building up a relationship, because both basketball wise and just kind of like as a human being, that is a good guy for McCain to follow in the footsteps there for sure.
Kyle Lowry's last tweet was on October. Actually, no, his last tweet was November 3rd, 2022. And there wasn't anything. He actually tweeted, "Happy Thanksgiving to my Canadian families and enjoy the day. Peace and love." I like that. So he was active up until about 2022, and then he shut it down. No idea on Instagram, but that's where he is on Twitter. All right, enough of that nonsense. Anything else for the Sixers? We'll talk tomorrow before the game gets going. But as far as where we're at, season about to get cranked up here. Overall thoughts, everything you've learned from training camp. Tell you what, Nick Nurse looks like he got a little. It looks like he put 5 years on in the last summer. Let's just put it that way. He looks old, man. Like, I'll love it. Like, it happens fast. Don't get me wrong. I'm not the springish chicken myself, but it's funny from coach's perspective because snapping of fingers, all of a sudden you turn gray. I saw him at the microphone, like, damn, Nick Nurse looks like he put on like 5 years, not pounds, but like 5 years of age in the last 3 to 4 months. And I would imagine rolling with this franchise, dealing with these fans, and trying to deliver, it's going to weigh on your health a little bit there. But put that to the side. Your general thoughts on the 76ers as we're about to get started on new season.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited about this team. I think this is the most talented top to bottom roster of my entire lifetime that I've seen for a Sixers team. I think that they're built to survive like the ups and downs of not having their superstars for stretches with Joel Embiid and with Paul George there. And for Nick Nurse specifically, as you mentioned, that's a guy that I don't think there's been quite enough excitement about. That I don't think he had quite the tools to build out a championship roster last year. When you look at like who he was working with this year, I think he does. So it would not surprise me at the year's conclusion that we're talking about making a case for him for coach of the year in the NBA. And I do think that he's going to be able to elevate this team throughout the season. So there's going to be a lot of experimenting, a lot of different lineups. We're going to see some cool things this year. But I think Nick Nurse is going to be in the mix for that this year.
76ers, can they get it done? 10-1 to win it all on DraftKings Sportsbook. 5 teams in front of them. Well, 1 tied with them, and then 4 in front of them. T-Wolves 10-1, Nuggets plus 950, Knicks 8-1, OKC plus 650, and the Boston Celtics plus 310. Trying to pull up the awards real quick. Coach of the year.
I believe he was 11th in this last I looked. So a pretty healthy ticket there.
This might be one of those deals where we don't get that in Pennsylvania. And I think that's the case right now. I could be mistaken, but it's not. I'm not seeing it. I'll have to pull it up. I got regular season MVP, Luka favored there. I got rookie of the year, Edie favored there. Is he going to win rookie of the year, Sean Barnard?
A lot of people seem to think so. I'm not as bullish on that. The plus 350 odds are kind of way shorter than I would have expected there. It does look like he's going to start for that Grizzlies team, so he's going to have opportunity. I do like how he looks playing next to Ja Morant, particularly in the pick and roll stuff. They've shown some nice flashes in preseason. I just have my questions about like I think there's my personal pick here is Matas Buzelis. That's my rookie of the year pick. I think he's in a good spot where he's a little bit in that middle ground where he's not on a good team with the Chicago Bulls, but he's going to get plenty of opportunity and they're not true bottom dwellers. I think Edie will be a little bit more limited statistically than people are hoping, and there's going to be some lineups where he doesn't fully fit. So he'll be in the mix, but I'm not as bullish on him as rookie of the year as a lot of people are speaking.
Interesting. Okay. Well, putting the awards to the side, we'll get into tonight's game. I just want to bring this back up from Edie's perspective. Let's focus on that for just a minute here because, wow. Like, just think about the conversation we had over last year's college basketball season into predicting where he was going. We debated whether or not he was going to be a lottery pick. You knew that somebody was going to give him a run at it, an opportunity at it. But now we're talking about Rookie of the Year award. Front runner. Man, what if we said that 16 months ago? What would you have said to me if I said going into the 2024-25 season, Zach Edey was going to be Rookie of the Year front runner at plus 350? Would you have said take a drug test?
Yeah, and the number 9th overall pick was not something I expected either. That Edey did change my mind last year that before last college season, I did not see a world where this guy could be a successful NBA player, that I just thought stylistically there were going to be some real challenges that he would not be able to overcome. He changed my mind throughout last year, that he's improved his mobility. It's still going to be unique in how he's used, and there's going to be certain situations where he's not built to fully match up with it. But I do think that the dude's a competitor. The dude wants it, and he's absolutely massive, man. I did have a chance to just walk right by him when we were out there in Vegas for Summer League, and probably the biggest human being that I've ever seen, just how much he towered over everyone. So I do think Edey wants it. He's going to work hard. There's a ton of positive buzz about his competitiveness, his willingness to work, and all this side of things. So I'm not fully rolling it out, but I did not expect this to be the outlook at this point in time for him. He's worked hard. He's earned it. So shout out to Zach Edey. But yeah, very surprised here.
Oh, that game's fast approaching. November 2nd. The Grizzlies are in town. Huh.
Yeah, they got a West Coast trip early this year. The Sixers do a couple. I want to say 2 weeks from now is when they start on the West Coast.
Sixers and Grizzlies play twice in the month of November, which sucks because I wanted to go see Ja Morant. I'd like to see Zach Edey play, but I got to work that night, so that sucks. Oh, well. I will tell you where I'm at right now. Season getting started. I love Reed Shepherd at 7-1. I think the Houston Rockets have a lot going for them. I like Udoka as the coach. I think he was able to square some things up last year. You just saw them get a couple contracts figured out in the last 24 to 48 hours, which I think is a big deal. Keeping that team together. They had a nice win streak last year, 11 to 12 wins, whatever it was. I think Reed Shepherd's going to fit in nicely, and the expectations are there for a reason. 7-1, Sean Barnard, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah, thumbs up on that one. That I definitely think he'll be in the mix. Houston's going to have to make some tough decisions in the pretty short term as far as what their future outlook and who's the foundational pieces of their core. Reed Shepherd was really impressive in summer league, and a guy that like I bought more stock in after watching him there. Played a slightly different role than he did at Kentucky, where he was more on ball dominant, able to run the offense a little bit, and he looks capable of doing those things. So I'm curious to see how he fits alongside a guy like Jalen Green. And there's a lot of bodies there with the Tari Easons, Fred VanVleet. You can go down the list of how many talented Dylan Brooks still on that roster there. So there's a lot of guys that are going to be competing for minutes. That's probably my biggest fear for it not working out for Shepherd, but he's a talented player, and it wouldn't surprise me if after this year we're talking about him being really like the face of that franchise or one of the key like foundational pieces there. So we'll see how it plays out, but I definitely think he's going to be in the mix and like that number there.
What about Donovan Clingan from Connecticut? And what he's able to do right now with Portland. Anything there for you as far as this upcoming season, 20-1?
He's looked good. I just think the Trailblazers are not as good of a spot as an organization. I think like he's not going to lift that in the way we'll see with some other teams. Like, for example, when I say like Matas Buzelis, like I think while that Bulls team won't be good, he's going to have a chance to have his nights where he's the guy. I don't think Klingen's ever really going to be that he's a really talented player, a guy that can absolutely fill a successful role on a contending team. But I do think like when you look at the statistical impact of a guy that's shining in the box score, that's not quite him, that he's going to be kind of like a 15-10 guy, probably at his peak at the NBA. I don't think that's quite rookie of the year stuff. And I just think the Trailblazers are kind of in a messy spot right now. So don't love Clingan for this year, but in the long term, absolutely believe in the kid.
All right. Yeah, I think that's one quick reminder as when you start talking about these awards. First of all, you got to make it through a course of a season healthy. Second of all, you do need the team to be somewhat competitive and playing well. And man, some of these guys, I need a little bit of. I know we're doing a little fantasy league here for the gambler, and I can't get involved with it. It'd probably be a good thing because some of these guys, I'm like, man, where did these rookies end up again? The NBA season's back, baby. Let's go. Dalton Connect, which is going to bring us into tonight's games, and of course, plays for the Lakers. Final thought on him as far as rookie of the year, 11-1. What's his PT looking like in your mind?
Yeah, I don't think it's enough to win Rookie of the Year. The lights of LA are bright, so if he plays super well, like the red carpet will be there for him, and there will definitely be a little bit of a media push in favor of Dalton Connect. But I think realistically that I think will be kind of an 8th or 9th man on that Lakers team, which is really good role for a rookie. Like you should be happy with that, but I don't think that's something that opens the door for Rookie of the Year. He's going to be good. He's a good player. There's still, I think, a bit more of a positive feel for him than is the full actuality that he's got some things to work on defensively. He'll be a day one contributor because he is 23 years old and a guy that obviously like is going to be important. I think JJ Redick's like as ideal of a coach as we could have drawn up for Dalton.
Yeah.
A lot of similarities in the way that they play together, and honestly, like Connect much more athletic, much more capable off the dribble. There's things that I'm excited to see how Redick utilizes him, but I do think when talking about Rookie of the Year, there won't be quite as much opportunity in front of him as you need to actually take home that award this year.
All right, Sean Barnard, before we dive into tonight's 2 games, and we'll start with that Lakers and T-Wolves, one big general question for you here. We'll tee this one up and put it on a promo. You ready?
Hit me.
How many teams can win the NBA championship this year in your mind?
That's a great question. I'll start at the top. Boston Celtics and Oklahoma City Thunder, absolutely. I would throw the Philadelphia 76ers in that conversation for sure. I think the West, there's a little bit longer list in the East. I personally don't fully buy the stock of the New York Knicks being true championship contenders this year. I don't think the Milwaukee Bucks are either. The West, I think Denver, you got to give the respect to them. There's a couple other teams in that mix that could get hot. So I think I would probably set the number about 5 or 6 for this year, but injuries can rip a name off that list rather quickly. So I'll start at 5 or 6, which is a bit smaller than I think we've seen in a lot of years.
So you got Celtics, OKC, Sixers. You got Nuggets. That's 4. You didn't say Knicks, correct? We're not putting the Knicks on the list?
I did not say Knicks. I'll look at the West a little bit. Giving respect to those guys, the Dallas Mavericks, I'm not ruling out of that. Obviously went to the finals last year. I'm putting the Phoenix Suns in the conversation as well.
Whoa, let's go.
I do think
Why?
that there's something there. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, incredibly talented. I know Bradley Beal was kind of running the media laps this summer about if I played a couple more games, we're talking about us as a 4 seed, not, us playing out of the play-in. I just think there's a lot of talent there. I like what they brought in with guys like Tyus Jones that can be a true point guard for that. They've got some intriguing minimum guys. I think like in year 2, their offenses looked impressive in preseason as far as the ball moving around, playing a little bit more team basketball. If you give them a full season, they can figure things out. I'm not overlooking the Phoenix Suns, so I'll throw them in that conversation. But I think I'm more positive on them than the consensus.
Did the Knicks take a step back with what they were able to do this offseason? Karl Anthony Towns, look, they still got Bridges, they still got Josh Hart. Of course, Brunson, who knows? Sky's the limit for him. Can he take another step up? Or I mean, if he's somewhat of, or if he's the same player he was last year, I mean, we're talking about him as a potential MVP front runner. Why are you down on the Knicks?
They're going to miss Dante DiVincenzo for starters, man. Like, I think it's a little underrated just how perfect he was for that team from a mentality standpoint, from a usage standpoint. And to be perfectly honest, take all the other circumstances out of this. If you just ask me, would you rather have on a championship contender Dante DiVincenzo or Karl Anthony Towns? My answer would be Dante DiVincenzo. That I do think like that.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, Towns is a really bad defender, man, and he's been hidden by Rudy Gobert for a couple years that I think we have forgotten about that to an extent. Like, there's going to be some matchups where if we're talking Sixers, Knicks, Joel's just going to score like 15 straight points when it's dumped into Karl Anthony Towns on a possession-by-possession basis. I still think there's just so much on Jalen Brunson's plate, and yes, he's an incredibly talented basketball player, but I also just have my concerns about, like, this is not Steph Curry running around running around screens and shooting 3-pointers. When Jalen Brunson's working, he's getting to the post, he's pivoting. Every bucket is such high use, and you got to work for so much. And we're talking about like that being sustainable over the course of the playoffs. I don't think OG Anunoby is a good enough creator to kind of carry that offense. I don't think Mikal Bridges is quite the guy that's going to be like that true number 2. Karl Anthony Towns is good. He's talented, but he's a spot up shooter who will take guys off the dribble occasionally. It's still this Jalen Brunson's world, everyone else living in it. And I just think like there's a lot on that guy's plate. And I have my questions about each of these other guys. The OG Anunoby, like the injury concerns are even more concerning than a guy like Joel Embiid there. The Bridges shot looks as ugly as I've seen. Like we're talking some Markelle Fultz type situation here, and that's going to be something that I have my eye on. It certainly would be full panic mode in Philadelphia if that was something that was going down there, but it does look ugly. I'm not going to lie. He shot 0 for 10 from 3 in preseason the other night. So that's not a great sign for that team there and something I have my eyes on. So there's just a lot more question marks than I expect to be the case. My biggest critique of this Knicks team is I doubted their top end talent. So I understand taking the swing on a guy like Towns, but there's a lot of moving parts for a team that just made their best run in 20 plus years at this point that I don't necessarily love like that mentality there.
Okay. You said a lot, and I'm not here to argue any of it. I would just push back on the Dante DiVincenzo take because my thought is he played about as well as he's ever going to play. And I don't know if you're going to get that again from Dante. And I'm a big Dante guy, but like Dante has had his moments where it's like, man, he's a player. Like he balled last year. Now, would that be the same thing because he's comfortable in the system with Villanova? Possibly. And even if he doesn't play to that level that he was in the playoffs and all of last year, how bad is he? Sure. I think another point, what you said as well is, look, they're top end talent. They were missing something. So you remove and you replace with Karl Anthony Towns. We're about to find what Cat's all about. And there's a lot of people that have Cat's back, right? We've heard Pat Bev, what he said. Of course, we know the history of Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons choking him out, like all that. Like we know, but like Karl Anthony Towns is still a hell of a shooter. And maybe that Knicks flavor is contagious too, man. You get him in that guard and it might change somebody, right? But we'll see. What is the deal with Bridges though? Because what the hell happened there? Like he gets moved and all of a sudden he's shooting the ball like Bill Cartwright from old school Chicago Bulls days, like all up there. Where did that come from?
Yeah, so he says that in his second season in the NBA, he developed a hitch in his shot and that he's been spent this amount of time. I mean, like there's always been something a little bit strange with his shot, but like we go down the line, this dude has been at least a league average and mostly better than that as far as what his shooting numbers are. Like his 3-point percentage, shot 33.5% as a rookie, 36.1% his second year. And then we're talking 42.5%, 36.9, 38.2, 38.7, 37.6, and 37.2. Like those are good shooting splits for a guy. So like I don't understand like this tweaking as much as it is. One of my takeaways and I guess hotter takes here is I think sometimes shooting coaches cause more problems than they solve among NBA players when you're trying to think out of the box and do something different. I think Bridges is a little bit of a victim of that. He says he's been trying to fix this hitch for 7 years. I straight up have not seen it in like his shots during these. Like, yes, it looks a little weird, but it's absolutely worse right now. So that's definitely something I have my eyes on. And like his outlook as a player drastically changes if he's not this like perfect 3-and-D archetype of player who can knock down shots like that. So while like I'm not in panic mode and he's a guy who can impact the game in other ways, that's something that could certainly change the outlook for the Knicks as a whole if that is a struggle for the season.
Absolutely. Think about when he got moved. Everybody was just putting him in the NBA Finals. Oh, my goodness.
6 first-round picks for this guy.
Dude, I've never heard of this hitch. Number one, I won't full disclosure. When he went to the Nets, I kind of like, all right, see ya, but I paid attention. I've been watching the box score, of course, when the Sixers play him, like all of the above, but I don't recall this hitch conversation. And then that video just on my timeline, you're right. It very similar to Markelle Fultz. Thank God it's not in a Sixers uniform. Could you imagine that? We'd lose our minds. Anyways, All right. Good luck, New York. We'll talk plenty about you throughout the course of this season. With that being said, let's do it, Sean. We got 2 games in the association, man. 2 real games tonight. And I want to open up with the second one. It's going to be a pretty special moment to see LeBron and Bronny out there. Something we've never seen before. I don't recall Ken Griffey and Junior and Senior. I remember that like this is way back in the day. I remember it, but like to sit there and say like I was at the no, I wasn't. So this is gonna be pretty cool. I will definitely be watching tonight for that point in general, just to see Bronny take the floor. Could very well be the only time it happens this year, right? Like I don't know what the plan is. I do know this much: when he's out there with the other starting 4 members, he looks like he doesn't belong. So I assume JJ Redick and the Lakers organization is going to say, we're trying to win games. We want to win an NBA championship. We got that out of the way. Congratulations. He might come back up throughout the course of the season. Who knows? But game 1 tonight, it's going to be pretty special. Your thoughts on that and the, of course, Bronny James conversation from here on out after tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously very cool, an awesome moment, a special moment. And I do think that the Lakers are probably doing the right thing by like getting out of the way with day one. Let's just, roll out the red carpet, make it a moment, and then we can focus on hoops from there. I don't think Bronny's looked overly bad. My expectations
I agree.
Certainly haven't been like sky high for him, but I think he's, been fine out there for the most part. I'm very curious how this balance goes throughout the season. That's probably my biggest concern with not just this Lakers team, but really JJ Redick as a whole. Is I think Redick's going to be a pretty excellent NBA coach when everything's said and done and how he handles this team. But there's a lot going on beyond just the normal like hurdles of coaching a basketball team there. So we'll see how that management situation is. LeBron obviously is going to have quite the voice and opinion on things, but I do think it's going to be a cool moment tonight. And I think like once the dust settles a little bit, that'll be mostly hoops than a lot of people are expecting. So let's get through tonight. Let's recognize the moment and then focus up and check rock from there.
You know what? I am pulling for JJ Redick. I am. I've always been a LeBron fan, so that's nothing new. Anthony Davis, of course, I like AD. I don't know, the Lakers deal, kind of like whatever. I'm not really a Lakers fan. But JJ Redick, like he makes me pull for him. And I don't know if it's because people are doubting him or whatnot. But like, why not? Why not JJ Redick? Like, if this guy can't slide in and be a coach, like he played forever in the NBA. He's earned a lot of respect from his time, and he's been in 1,000,001 locker rooms. This isn't just a guy that was a great college basketball player. No, he had a hell of an NBA career, and I just feel like he can be a good coach. Now it's the Lakers. It's not going to be easy. Too many chefs in the kitchen. We know how that works, but we'll see. And ultimately, It comes down to the health of Anthony Davis. What's the most important part for the Lakers? Because you know what you're going to get from LeBron. As we set up shop for 82, what's the most important part for the Lakers to take that next step and potentially get into a WCF and maybe play for an NBA Finals?
Yeah, for me, it's the other guys that like I see all these lists ranking best players in the NBA. And if we're for sure that both LeBron James and Anthony Davis are top 10 NBA players, which I wouldn't lock myself in on the absolutely positive about that, but I see plenty of lists where that's the case. Well, if that is, then if you have two top 10 NBA players, why is this team not regarded as a true contender? Or why can't this team make an actual deep playoff run? So for me, it's the rest of the guys. Can D'Angelo Russell maintain the shooting that he showed last year? Can Austin Reeves take that next step? Can Rui Hachimura be a guy that's an impact player on both sides of the floor? Those are the guys that I kind of have my eyes on for. What is your next progression? How are you going to be used by JJ Redick here? And I do think that there's going to be some pretty significant changes in the offense. One of the things that's jumped out to me the most is they seem to be using Anthony Davis as more of a playmaking hub and kind of the Nikola Jokic style. I would eye his assist numbers this year that I expect those to have a significant uptick. And I think the combos are probably the way from a betting perspective that you should be looking at Anthony Davis this year. So keep an eye on that. But I think that like stylistically, the offense is going to be much different. Seen D'Angelo Russell use as a cutter in a way that I've never seen from him before in his career. So Redick's going to be in his bag trying to figure things out. But to me, it's about all the other guys not named Anthony Davis and LeBron James for if this team can truly be relevant from a playoff standpoint.
Excellent stuff. All right, let's get into tonight's games. We'll start with that. Your thoughts for tonight, T-Wolves and Lakers game. It's a point spread here, essentially a pick 'em. Right now on DraftKings Sportsbook, actually T-Wolves are favored by a point. 220 is your total in this one. And I do want to point out, shout out DraftKings, they got a great King of the Court promotion. So take advantage of this. There's a couple details, but essentially you need to find the King of the Court, and it's the person that leads the night for the first 10 days of the NBA season. You can opt in. You fire up DraftKings Sportsbook, opt in, and they will send you a token back, and you apply it to it, and you use it towards a player. And it's points, rebounds, assists, whatever combo you want. It's under headers, players points, players threes, players rebounds, players assists, player combos, players defense. So you find those three that you'll use, and if that your player leads the league that night for the King of the Court, you can win a share of $1 million. Of course, there'll be multiple people to have a certain player selected. So if you pick the right player and you hit with everybody else, you share $1 million between you. It's pretty damn good promotion by folks over at DraftKings Sportsbook. So make sure you fire up DK, and for all you new users, my promo code Sean Barnard. Do you have a promo code yet?
No promo code for me just yet. So lock in brace when you're typing it.
Yeah. At the King of the Court, though, pretty dang cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I actually did not see that one yet. So yeah, pretty cool promotion over there. That's one that I would I don't know who my concept is there. It might look towards kind of a Nikola Jokic stat stuffer type guy or something like that, but I'd have to dive into what the best outlook is for that one.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll tweet that out a little later. I'll give you an opportunity to dive in, and it starts tonight. Tonight is so essentially tonight you got two games to choose from.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who's going to stuff the stat sheet in your mind between these two games? Let me ask you off the top of your head, the T-Wolves, Lakers, Boston Celtics, Knicks.
I probably lean more towards that first game with the Knicks and Celtics. That I probably Jalen Brunson might be my option there. I think he's a guy that's going to have his fingerprints all over this game from a stat standpoint. I think when you look at a team like the Celtics, that you can never fully tell whose night it is. That Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum kind of power balance there. That they can step on each other's toes at times when looking at the actual output there. Brunson is in a lane of his own for New York, and I do think like that is a more high usage role than even what we'll see for either the Timberwolves or Lakers. Anthony Edwards probably deserves to be in that conversation, and Anthony Davis, if he has a strong rebounding night, could absolutely leapfrog in front of this. But I think for night one, for the best stats across the board, I think Jalen Brunson is my pick there.
All right, nice. All right, over to the games tonight. Once again, T-Wolves and Lakers in LA. Lakers losing the game one here at home with all the pop and circumstance and red carpets and of course all the celebrities in the building. I just saw Shannon Sharp on TV and Stephen A saying they're taking flights out there. Of course, it's Lakers game one. Everyone's going to be in the building, but even more special with Bronny and LeBron here. Are they losing this game tonight?
Yeah, I don't think they are. That I do think the Lakers get the night one win. This Timberwolves team, I think, is going to have some growing pains. The Julius Randle just traded to this organization. Dante DiVincenzo, new face. Rudy Gobert, pretty unique guy, learning how to play next to. I think there will be some moments and struggles in the early handful of games. I think the Lakers will take advantage of that for night one. There's going to be high intensity in the building. There's going to be plenty of pomp and circumstance, as you mentioned, as there's a big deal made about the LeBron stuff. I just don't see a world where the Lakers lose tonight. I think they start off on the right foot for the 24-25 season, and that's taking care of business at home.
All right. Pulling up some numbers real quick as far as what DK is offering, player points, and it should be no surprise, but we do know how this works. Most points you can get on the market as far as leading scorer tonight, Anthony Edwards leading the charge at plus 180. I think that's a pretty good wager. You just know Ant's going to get after it game one with everyone watching. But to the numbers itself, player prop or player point props, 24.5 for AD, 25.5 for Anthony Edwards. Austin Reeves with 15.5, D'Angelo 15.5, DiVincenzo 12.5, LeBron 23.5, Rudy 12.5, and Hachimura, who I always get pulled to, 11.5. And oh, by the way, Julius Randle too as well, new T-Wolf player, 17.5. Any one of those jumping off the page here?
Randall's a little intriguing to me. That's lower than the number that I would kind of expect it to be. As I mentioned, I do like the combos for Anthony Davis. That's something Anthony Davis that I'll have my eyes on for this year. Looking at 41 plus for minus 125 is a number that I like for that. I do think he's going to be more utilized as a playmaker than we've ever seen from him before. I think my prediction for his stat line for tonight is probably around like 20, 15, and 7, which is a really good night and one that would clear that number there. I think he will be involved in running the offense in a way that we haven't seen before. So lean towards the combos. But as far as points, I do think Julius Randle is going to have more of an offensive role than people are giving credit. That 17.5 number seems a little low for me. So let's pencil him for a good debut with the Timberwolves as he faces off with the team that drafted him right in the first place.
I'm going to go Anthony Edwards plus 180 to lead the charge in scoring tonight.
I like it.
Yeah, keep it simple. Keep it simple. All right, over to game one. Let's go. Knicks and Celtics. Game one, getting the season started. It's a pretty good matchup, right?
Yeah.
Game being played in Boston. Banner drops, of course. Everybody's got the Celtics essentially running back to back. Easier said than done. And it's between a lot of the people that I'm seeing on my timeline. It's either OKC or Boston to win the NBA Finals this year. I don't even know where I'm at with that discussion, but I'd like to see somebody new other than Boston. That would be my deep take today, and I'm sure everybody would agree with me on that one. But Boston's really good. And, of course, the motivation that everybody gave them this offseason is like the worst thing possible. But here we are. Game one tonight, 5.5 point spread. Boston favored at home, 222.5 is your total here. Jaylen Brown is your excuse me, no, he's not. Most points tonight in the game, plus 140. Jalen Brunson leading the charge. Then Jason Tatum, then Jaylen Brown at plus 425. I think Jaylen Brown might be worth a little play there. Your thoughts on tonight's game? What are your expectations? 5.5. Let's start there.
Yeah, 5.5 feels a little bit high to me. That I'm kind of nervous about that number. I do think the Celtics ultimately win this game, sort of for the same reasons as the Lakers. That I think there's going to be something about the energy in that building with ring night, with the banner, all those type of things. And the same concerns about this Knicks team is we need to see them figure things out together for a little bit. There's been a lot of change in a short amount of time, particularly with this Karl-Anthony Towns trade happening so short until the season went down. So I'm not as like bullish on things happening from day one. And the 5.5 feels like a lot, but I'm probably going to end up laying it. That I do think that the Celtics will take care of business and get the victory here. You're absolutely right about the motivation factor, that this team has been more disrespected than just about any former champion that I can remember. It's been pretty surprising to me, really, how they're talked about and picked apart. I mean, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they're not perfect, but they're very good basketball players, man, and they're going to be right back to it this year. Joe Mazzulla, a psychopath in the way that he speaks, but I kind of love what a good quote he's become. Yesterday, he's talking about how words can't hurt him, and everyone in this inner circle, all he knows is 40 years from now, none of you guys will be going to my funeral. So very weird dude, but I do think that they go to bat for him, and I do think that the Celtics are going to be built to build off last season. So sign me up for them getting the victory tonight, and I'll hesitantly lean towards the minus 5.5.
Love it. Yeah, I'm with you on Boston opening up the season with the victory. I'll lay the 5.5. I'll Again, it's a steep number, but I think the Knicks have a lot to put together for night one with the energy in that building, co-signing everything you just said. And look, when it comes to leading the charge, Jaylen Brown plus 425. Again, you want to talk about a guy being motivated.
Yeah.
I wouldn't look past him. I think Tatum, of course, is going to, he's past the USA. He got the gold medal. He's past it. But I think Jaylen Brown continues to be disrespected and look at as the second tier type of guy in between that tandem. So again, both are extremely young. Prime time right now for both of them. I just think this is going to be a great game this evening. So give me the Celtics minus 5.5. More than anything, that's probably my favorite play on the board tonight. All right. Get you out of here on this one. The all-important, who is going to tank this year, Sean Barnard, as we get the season started? Cooper Flagg is a huge, huge prize. This kid is incredible. You saw him with the hype videos. You saw in high school, you saw him with the hype videos put out by Duke. But then the eye-opening video that was put out by the USA basketball team where he was out there competing with Ant and Karl Anthony Towns and like you go down the list, the kid belonged. And he is going to roll down there in Durham. Who is finishing last this year, Sean Barnard, and ultimately getting the prize of Cooper Flagg?
Yeah, it's going to be a fun race this year. To shoot you straight, I think my answer is the Portland Trailblazers right now.
Wow.
Would be an interesting home for him out there in Portland. I think he's going to be just fine wherever he lands. That's probably the team that I have the most amount of concerns with and just don't see the route to getting a lot of victories. The Brooklyn Nets are talked about as one of those teams and obviously made a trade this summer to get back control of their draft picks. They have him firmly in mind as well, and I do think they'll be in the mix for the worst teams, but I think Portland's probably the team that I'm the most concerned with entering this year, and Washington Wizards in that same mix will be a team right by the bottom feeders of it. You could even see a team like the Chicago Bulls fully drop off if things are going bad this year, but I think to answer directly, the Portland Trailblazers is my prediction for the worst record in the NBA this year.
All right. And then obviously we got the lottery. So that doesn't mean anything at that point in time. So want to put that out there. All right. And then final one for me, because as I'm pulling up some numbers here on DraftKings, a lot of people are hyping up the Charlotte Hornets this year. And from the standpoint of like, let's not get carried away. It's more along the lines of like putting it together and being a good franchise, winning some games. Looks like there's some money to be made on Charlotte if they do have a good season this year. Your thoughts on the outlook for the Hornets this year?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing has been LaMelo's health. That's been the biggest thing holding them back. That, like, when you look at his stats, like he played 51 games as a rookie, 75 games his second year, and then 36 in 22, 23, and just 22 last year. The numbers are there. Like last year that he averaged 23.9 points, 8 assists, and 5.1 rebounds, but he only played in 22 games because of injuries there. So if you get LaMelo for the entirety of a season, I do think that translates to more wins. He's still going to have to make some adjustments stylistically the way that he plays. I think Brandon Miller is due to take a leap his second year. Thought he impressed me a ton during the second half of last season, which with the way that he was putting performances together, and I think it's only the beginning there. Seazon Salon, their first round picks, a guy who's gotten a lot of positive buzz coming out of training camp and looks a lot more confident in his shot and just really his overall abilities than I expected to be the case this soon. So that's another name to bring in the mix there. They have enough talent there that they should be okay. Miles Bridges is a guy that will obviously be relevant, and you can feel how you feel about him, but he will be putting up some numbers on the court there. There's more talent there than they've given him credit. I think they're going to be kind of a mid-tier bad team rather than a true bottom feeder, which is a step forward for Charlotte. So shout out to them, I guess.
All right. Sean, great stuff. Getting the party started right here with the quick hitter, about 40, 45 minutes total on all things NBA. Of course, the season gets started tonight. This was just put out by the NBA PR. They announced today that a record-tying 125 international players from 43 countries are on an opening night roster for this upcoming season. That's 13 from Australia, 8 from Germany, Cameroon 5, and a record-tying 14 players from France and 17 from the continent of Africa. Fantastic stuff. It truly is a global game. Sean Barnard, you're the best. Good luck on all your plays. Once again, you can find Sean on all things socials and, of course, catch all of his content over there at the DKNetwork.com. Sean, enjoy the day, my friend. We'll catch up tomorrow and talk about the 76ers.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. We are back. Basketball is back.
And I'm ready to be heard again. All right, for Sean Barnard, I am Sean Brace. If you missed anything, get all of our podcasts and recaps over at foxphlgambler.com. com.